right now. Let's listen in to figure out what's going on and what they expect throughout the season. We'll take them right now.
That's good not just for us. It's good for all taxpayers, all residents all across the state of Wisconsin.
Do you think the city as like a government municipality uses the resource of the lake enough to
This is another way that we're doing that, and we don't want to lose that, and that's why we're making the investment here. But whether it's the Great Lakes cruising that we support the city, whether it's the Red Bull Flutog that Milwaukee County does, whether it's the Harley Davidson homecoming and the great events that happen there, whether it's folks going to Summerfest down on the shore of Lake Michigan here, like we get out. Here in Milwaukee, we utilize our public resources, and we encourage people to take part in nature here in this community too. And I'm really excited about it. I mean, just this past weekend, I was along the Milwaukee River and some of the other creeks and such throughout the city, thanking folks participating in the river cleanup just this past weekend. They're not doing it just because it's a fun thing to do. They do it because it's good for the earth, it's good for our environment, but it's also because it's an economic driver. Our waterways are. So yeah, we do, and I want to do more, and that's why we made that sort of investment that I talked about in terms of our cruise dock that we'll be building here in the city to accommodate these massive cruise ships who are coming to Milwaukee.
Talk a little bit more about this is another opportunity for Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin to showcase itself internationally. We've had so many opportunities recently. Talk about, and as you said, it's word of mouth, but it's also about just international recognition. Plus, we get the added profits to our area businesses.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when we have international cruise ship vessels that come into Milwaukee, that elevates the city. It elevates the city nationally. It certainly elevates our city internationally as well. And I mean, look, it's not just me saying it. I mean, you look at the travel publications, whether it's a Condé Nast Traveler, the New York Times, other publications that say, if you're traveling around the world, specifically traveling in the Midwest, like you have to come and visit Milwaukee. You've got to come spend time here. Don't just stop, in Chicago. Make sure you come north. And there have been plenty of publications about that. I encourage more folks to come and visit Milwaukee, to take the time to spend some time here on the ground in our community. And I think, even more publications will say the exact same thing. It's, no wonder why, just last year we had Top Chef that was here experiencing Milwaukee, experiencing Wisconsin, and getting the word out, because this is a great place and more folks are figuring it out. And that makes me very happy.
And with the NFL draft was just in Wisconsin, I mean, we've got a good track record.
If you're just now joining us, we are listening in to a news conference that the City of Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson is giving about the Viking ship Octanus. This is the first cruise ship to dock in Port Milwaukee this season, and he's been saying he's incredibly excited about what kind of opportunity this can bring for folks who are new to the city, perhaps thinking of making a trip to Milwaukee. And he says this is just pretty much going to restore the faith and commitment to keeping our city clean, and also boosting our tourism efforts here. So if you're just now joining us, this is happening right now. The mayor of Milwaukee giving us some feedback and updates about the first cruise ship to dock in Port Milwaukee. We're listening in just a little bit more before we dip out here.
And so at this time, I'm going to pass the mic over to Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Hello, good morning, and thank you all for being here this morning. Do we? Okay. Well, again, thank you. We're excited today to kick off the 2025 Great Lakes cruise season for Port Milwaukee. Starting off again, 4th year in a row to be kicking off with the Viking Octanus. So really excited to have you all down here because we love to tell the story. We know the residents really get behind it. They're excited to learn about it. So thank you for taking the story back to them. Any questions, anybody?
How much is after the economy?
So I don't have the specifics about how much this adds to the economy, but what I can tell you is that every passenger and every crew member that stops here in Milwaukee, they're shopping here, they're eating in the restaurants here. Some of the cruise passengers will stay overnight either before or after their cruise begins or ends. And so we're seeing some impact, but we're also, I think the mayor kind of alluded to the fact that our profile is also being elevated. One of the questions I get all the time from my family is, when are you traveling again? And this year, I get to tell them I don't have to travel as much because a lot of the port industry events are actually coming to Milwaukee to host their conferences here. So I think that says something about the profile and how much we've been elevated. Cruise season in the Great Lakes definitely has a lot to do with that.
You said this could be a record-breaking year for 2025. So how is this contributing to the record-breaking year?
So, well, for one, this is one of the earliest vessel arrivals we've had, April 28th. We usually kick off the season early May. So we're starting out early, but then we'll go into October. So it's going to be one of the longest cruise seasons we've had so far. But then we'll also have a record number of passengers. We'll see a dip in the number of visits, but our cruise passenger count will kind of be maintained. And I don't know that we'll break records. I think the records we're assuming we'll break, that's going to happen in 2026, where we'll see a major uptick in the number of vessel visits that we'll see, and then in turn the uptick in the number of passengers that will visit the city. That is because we are investing in our...
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. If you're just now joining us here on our Wisconsin Live Desk, our newest and most innovative way to get some information out to you, you've been listening to city leaders and the mayor of Milwaukee, who just spoke before, talking about celebrating the first cruise ship to dock at Port Milwaukee, the Viking ship Octanus. Again, so many people have been talking about, city leaders specifically, about how much of an economic boost this will provide to our community and to our city, and perhaps regionally, really, right? You know, everything from shopping, eating, and then drawing in a national audience. The city leaders don't have a real hard numbers in terms of what the impact is going to be on the economy, but they do know that it will encourage more people to buy local, shop local, eat local, and continue drawing in such a national audience. So we'll get back to that and follow that as it continues to develop here. We are following some other big news happening around our community as well. The MPS lead exposure, you've probably heard several stories about this. Perhaps some of you have been impacted and your families and your children by this lead exposure. We do know that MPS leaders as well as health leaders held a news conference today sort of updating us on where we are going in terms of a path forward in combating the lead exposure at some of your children's schools. Our Aaron Maben has been following this for us all morning. There was a meeting he sat in and was a part of as city leaders kind of disseminated information about how to move forward and how to best protect your children. I want to bring him in as we speak. Aaron, good morning to you, brother. What can you tell us about this meeting? There are two new schools that will be temporarily closed. What can you tell us about it?
Hey there, Donovan. Yeah, we got word about this news conference a few days ago, and we kind of suspected that it was going to be another update because we had seen this over the past few weeks. At every update that they came with, they were announcing more school closures. We saw that with La Follette. We saw that with Fernwood. Well, the latest ones that we learned today, they're going to be shutting down in the month of May. One is Westside Academy. The other one is Brown Street Academy right here on 20th and Brown in Milwaukee. It's so interesting because it's a beautiful day, Donovan, so the windows are open here, and we're hearing teachers. I'm hearing a math lesson inside of the school right now, and that's going to be changing in May, specifically with this school. On May 12th, they're going to be closing their doors. All the kids that are at the school are then going to be going to Douglas Middle School. Westside Academy students, they're also going to be closing. That's going to be happening on May 5th. Those students will also be going to Douglas. So that means two more MPS schools are going to be closing in May as the district continues to deal with this ongoing lead crisis. What's really interesting, in the last few minutes, we got a brand new update from MPS. I was able to look at my phone and I was able to look at the latest update. And the health department and MPS sent us brand new pictures. So I was able to see what is going to be going on inside of Brown Street Academy here. And think of the window sills. There's a lot of paint chipping that is happening. Think of the heating systems that they use that are really close to the floor, and there's a little paint on there. There's a lot of chipping there. So that means crews need to go inside of these schools. Brown Street Academy, one of them, they have to get inside, they got to clean it up, and they have to paint over it too. So there's a lot of remediation work. So that's the specific work that's going to be going inside of Brown Street Academy in the coming weeks. And it's likely, according to this news conference, that these kids will not be going back to Brown Street Academy, to West Side School until the next school year. So let's talk about the next school year, because there needs to be a lot of work that goes on in the coming months throughout the summer to, while these kids are at home, playing, doing the camps and everything, the district's going to be really busy going inside a lot of these closed schools, doing a lot of lead remediation and a lot of lead work too. What was really fascinating, Donovan, from that news conference, because we're talking about all this work, all the closures and moving that needs to happen, the district still does not have a figure. They do not have a number on how much all of this is going to cost. What we did learn, though, is that the individual schools will not be paying for it. So the schools are not going to be paying for it. The district is going to be required. The health department is going to be required for dealing with all this lead remediation. To me, it sounds like a really big number that they can't figure it out right now. But to me, it's possible that we could be talking about a really big number to deal with all the remediation in schools like this one right here and the dozens of other MPS schools that they have to be cleaning up in the next months. So a big takeaway, Donovan, before I send it to you, I know you have a question for me or two. The big takeaway that we got today, Westside Academy, Brown Street Academy here in Milwaukee, they're both going to be closing in early May, May 5th, May 12th for those schools respectively. And those students are going to be moving to Douglas Middle School in Milwaukee. It's going to be a whole new landscape for them. They got to learn a whole new school, but the good thing is they are going to be having their teachers. Donovan?
Yeah, Aaron, excuse me. I want to ask you, are you getting a sense of parent reaction and maybe other educators' reaction to like the ever-changing scenario we are finding ourselves in?
Yeah, I just looked over my shoulder right now because I'm hoping to look like that a parent will come out here. You know me very well. I want to talk to parents right away. So we are just at Westside Academy. We are hoping to talk to parents. So kind of the news process, Donovan, we are going kind of door to door, walking down the street, looking for homes. I talked with a woman. She said that the kid that she was with was not a student at Westside Academy. And she said that it doesn't appear that the kids that she knew directly on her block were kids at that school either. We've seen people parking. There's a beautiful park across the street from us right now. We've seen people walking and parking to go to that park. A volunteer went inside that school. But we have not been able to talk to a parent directly. So that means I'm going to be out here for some time hoping to talk with a parent because that's what we really want, right? We can hear so much information from leaders on what exactly is going to be happening, but we love to get to the bottom of how this is going to impact the children, our thousands of children, and also how this is going to impact a lot of these parents too. Are they going to be needing to change their wake-up schedule, their busing schedule, to maybe drop them off at a different home? Who knows, because a lot of parents are working parents. That's what we're dealing with right now. They're working parents, and a lot of their days may be changed. We found that early on when that school in Bayview had to shut down. One woman told me that she was waking up 30 minutes earlier. Imagine waking up a 5-year-old, Donovan, 30 minutes earlier just so they could get their teeth brushed in the morning, get their breakfast and everything, and then head to that new school that they went to for a couple of weeks. I'm sure we could deal with some of those stories too. We just haven't been able to talk to those parents or guardians quite yet, but you know they're going to have some reaction for us that we'll get for you.
Absolutely, and I know you're working hard on the ground there too. Listen, I don't have a 5-year-old, but I have 5-year-old godkids, and yeah, changing their routine, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yes. I want to ask you too, do we know if there are any elevated levels of lead in kids? Was that the impetus for closing 2 more schools independent of the lead being found?
And I'm looking at my notes right now because I just went through that press conference again, and I want to make sure that I'm saying this correctly. This came from Dr. Brenda Casilius. I have it right here. She says, there is no immediate danger to buildings, and she says no kids have elevated lead levels either. So that kind of answers your question. No kids have elevated lead levels from Brown Street Academy or Westside Academy. And she also says no immediate danger to those buildings too. But we do know from those pictures that there is that concern when it comes to the paint on the side of the building, the paint connected to the windowsills too, and the possible dust. That goes on to the next question that came from the next message that came from the health department. They do want to make it very clear that there are those ongoing clinics for parents that maybe do have a concern about their kids that are going to those schools. Those kids can go to those lead testing clinics to get their blood levels taken, and then they can get those results back too. And that helps the district, that helps the health department when it comes to lead level data as well. And that just gives all those parents or guardians that reassurance too, so they can maybe, take a breath too. This lead stuff is very scary, so they can really take a breath when they get those results too. We'll make sure to put that information on our website, on the Fox Local mobile app as well, because there are a lot of clinics that are going to be popping up. The big one's going to be coming up in May. I don't believe I have that in my notes, but the big one's going to be coming up in May at North Division High School, where they're going to be testing a number of kids too.
Aaron, really appreciate your reporting there, brother. Thank you so much for joining us here. And yes, certainly going to be something that we continue to follow and something that parents have a lot of questions about. Thank you so much, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
All righty, folks. All right, well, we will continue here on the live desk following what's happening around our community, around our nation, and what's happening worldwide. But for a second, we want to take a quick break, but you can stay connected with us on our Fox Local mobile app or on fox6now.com. And, of course, when we return right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll see you in just a bit.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Donovan Long here with you all this afternoon, in for Carl, who was out on assignment for us right now. We've been following. Let's take a step back. If you're just now joining us, probably new to this process, this is one of our newest series we've rolled out to make sure that you stay informed throughout the day between 12:30 and 1:30. This is, of course, our Wisconsin Live Desk, as I mentioned earlier. This is pretty much the studio where we can disseminate information with regard to what's happening around our community, around the state, nationally, globally. We've already covered, if you've missed, some important community news with regard to lead remediation at some of your kids' schools in the district of Milwaukee Public Schools. We've also talked about the new cruise ship, the first one to dock in the port of Milwaukee, the Viking ship Octanus. And we've got another story we've been following all month long since last year. We're talking about this. You may have heard us talking about it. You may have even jogged past it right here. This is Deep Thought, the abandoned boat that's near Bradford Beach off the shore of Lake Michigan. You probably have seen this. It's certainly now more graffiti than it was, and it seems to keep getting that way. But basically, this boat was supposed to have been removed last week, but the weather played a huge role in prohibiting crews from doing so. It wasn't safe conditions to bring crews out here and remove this boat that's been kind of stuck in the sand here. We know Mayor Cavalier Johnson of Milwaukee discussed funding for the removal also last week, Wednesday. He announced that an anonymous donor had come forward to sort of help with this effort to remove this boat, which some are calling an eyesore, from the shores of Lake Michigan. Of course, this is just around the Bradford Beach area. If you run or walk your dog along this section of this portion of Lake Michigan downtown. So this is, yeah, you're looking at it right here in all of its glory. You've probably seen so many passersby, so many kids, their parents, looking at the ship, of course, on the rocks here, taking pictures of it. And it's just something that has just been abandoned here for quite some time. It's been here since October of last year, of 2024. And since then, it's become such a community conversation. Now, again, we had hoped, according to city leaders, that the boat would be removed last week, Wednesday, but Lake Michigan became too choppy throughout the day, and it really prohibited crews from removing deep thought from the water here. So it's been previously a big issue. Who was on the hook to remove it? Was it the county's responsibility? Was it the owners who abandoned it? Was it their responsibility? But now, as I mentioned earlier at the top here, there has been an anonymous donor who is providing the money to make sure that this boat gets removed when it's safe to do so. So you're probably asking, well, when is that going to be? We don't know yet. Here's why. Crews are making sure the weather will hold up so that they can do their jobs efficiently and safely as possible. So we're kind of in a waiting game here and kind of in limbo until crews can make the safe decision to remove this boat from the water with the help of the anonymous donor. So if you're wondering how much money is it going to take to remove that, we don't know. That has not been announced to us. We are not privy to that information. But just like this gentleman here along the rocks, gazing at the boat, that's what so many of you have been doing since this boat kind of washed ashore last October. And it just kind of goes to show you how much attention this boat has drawn from around our community. I go running in this section of Lake Michigan along the shore here, and I remember moving here in December, seeing this boat and seeing so many people talk about this boat. So here we are. I've gotten immersed in the community. Now I know why this boat is here and that it wasn't really supposed to be here. It was just abandoned, and now it's hopefully going to get removed, of course, if the weather holds up. So we will continue following this story. It's been an interesting one to keep a hold of. It's something that, again, has been generating a lot of community conversation with regard to city leaders and passersby, like the gentleman you just saw. So it has been something that we will continue to follow as well. Want to also get you caught up on something that's happening. That's happening globally. Something that we've all been kind of focused on: the Pope's funeral and his passing, and what has kind of led to that. We want to give you a live look now at at Vatican City. Here it is in all of its glory. So we know that the conclave will be set for May 7th. That is going to be the process by which cardinals choose the successor to Pope Francis. Now, this news came out earlier this morning. Of course, it follows 2 days since the Pope was laid to rest. We do know that we are waiting to see when the cardinals will start choosing and selecting the next Pope, or who may be considered. We know that right now that community is in a 9-day period of mourning, which is standard. That is to happen so that people can really reflect on the Pope, what he meant to them, what he stood for, what he represented. But we are taking a live look right now at the Vatican, at Vatican City, where we now know the conclave is to begin May 7th, and that is where the cardinals will meet to start selecting, or the process to select, a successor to Pope Francis. And this has been something that has affected communities not only in the Vatican or in the surrounding areas, but here closer to home with our Catholic community. We've heard people from worshipers to faith leaders to the Archdiocese address this passing and what it has meant for them, what it means for the Catholic Church. A lot of people we've spoken with talk about how the Pope Francis, was someone who was inclusive and represented all people. and someone who welcomed unity and love for all mankind. So this is someone that during this 9-day period of official mourning that these folks will continue remembering and reflecting on, and hopefully maybe adopt some of his ideals and principles that are personal to them, and perhaps they can reflect on that in the absence of Pope Francis. But again, we are taking a live look now here over Vatican City, where the Vatican has announced May 7th as the beginning of the process to select a new pope to lead the Catholic Church. So we'll continue following this process as it starts, and again, start understanding and start realizing who may be a viable candidate to succeed Pope Francis. We are not sure who that could be, what that looks like right now, again, because we are in observance. So the Catholic Church is in observance of a 9-day period of mourning Pope Francis' recent passing. But we'll for sure stay on top of this because it's so important to so many people we know who are Catholics as well. And we're just now going to we're going to come back here for a little bit just to kind of divulge what we've been following here. If you're just now new to the Wisconsin Live Desk, it's really informal way of disseminating information to you with regard to what's happening globally, such as who's going to succeed the Pope, or what's happening in our community with regard to the MPS-led exposure process and what phase administrators are moving to assure U.S. parents that your kids will be protected. You probably just heard from our Aaron Maben, who's on the story today, following up on what this means for parents and district leaders and faculty members alike. We've also just taken a look at the abandoned boat we know as, or you may know as, Deep Thought. It's near Bradford Beach, near the shore of Lake Michigan. It's been abandoned in our community since October of last year, but crews are preparing to remove it any day now, since an anonymous donor has come forward to provide the funding to remove it. The big thing is the weather going to hold up so that we can get this bad boy out of our area? Some folks like the fact that it's sitting there. They've started to graffiti it, as you probably saw, or as you probably have seen previously. But other folks are calling this an eyesore, and they just simply want it gone. We've also kind of unpacked the new cruise ship, the first cruise ship, rather, that has docked at Port Milwaukee. It's called the Viking ship Octanus. The Milwaukee mayor was doing a news conference about that earlier this afternoon, talking about what this means for our economy and what this means in terms of welcoming so many new people and new folks to Milwaukee, and really what this means in terms of drawing tourists to our area to shop local, to eat local, and to experience all things Milwaukee. So we'll continue following different aspects of our community, what's happening nationally and what's happening globally right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And y'all, it is real. Really real-time news that we're disseminating, and it is live. So again, thank you for joining us here. We're going to take a quick short break, but we'll be right back. Take care.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Donovan Long here today for you, in for Carl Deffenbaugh. If you're just now joining us and you're like, what is the Wisconsin Live Desk? We've got those answers for you. This is a pretty much new, interactive, and innovative, real-time way of getting you all the information that you may have missed as you got out the door this morning. We are following what's happening around our community, what's happening nationally, what's happening globally. And so thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you will come back as we continue disseminating the most important headlines that you probably would like to know and should know as you get your day started or you get the rest of the afternoon started. One of the main things we're following locally is the Slenderman stabbing. Morgan Geyser, you may remember the name. There was a conditional release plan, Morgan Geyser, excuse me. There was a conditional release plan for Morgan earlier today, and our Brett Lemoyne has been in court all morning following this for us. I know, Brett, a lot has come out in the past couple of hours since you've been on the ground there. Kind of update us with the newest information and bring it home for folks who are sort of new to this case. Good afternoon to you, brother.
Huge day for Morgan Geyser, a turning point really, where she was supposed to learn what her immediate future will look like. In January, you'll recall, a judge here in Waukesha County granted her conditional release, meaning that she would be transitioning from her sentence at the Winnebago County Mental Health Institute to a group home somewhere here in the state of Wisconsin. Well, things did not go according to plan for Geyser or her attorneys today. And that's because there was a revelation in court this morning that the group home that Geyser was supposed to be transitioned to is actually just 8 miles away from where the victim in this case currently lives, that victim being Peyton Leitner. You'll recall back in 2014, Leitner was stabbed 19 times by Geyser and her friend Anissa Wire in Waukesha County. They lured this girl into the woods, and they did this to please the fictional character known as Slender Man. So Geyser has been spending her sentence ever since in the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. She had petitioned multiple times, 4 times actually, to be able to transition to a group home, much like her counterpart Anissa Wire did successfully in 2021. Peyton Leitner's mother spoke to the court today, Donovan, saying that they just don't feel comfortable with her being that close. So it begs the question, well, how close can Morgan Geyser then live in relation to the victim in this case? That question's still unanswered as of today. A representative from DHS, who is Geyser's case manager, said that they are looking at all options, but right now possibly somewhere at least within 10 miles away from where Peyton Leitner is currently living in Milwaukee County. They chose Milwaukee County because it is not Waukesha County. They said that it was because this is where the incident offense occurred, that it would be in the best interest for Geyser to not be here. Obviously, there was some sort of miscommunication with the victim's family, because the victim's family said they were never contacted by DHS, never consulted as to what Peyton Leitner's day-to-day activities are, where she will be staying. So that was a big point of contention today in court. Ultimately, the judge made a decision that Geyser has to return to Winnebago for at least the foreseeable future for the next 30 days until DHS and the case manager are able to draft a new plan to be able to house her in a facility that is somewhere that's amenable to all parties, Donovan.
Brett, I want to ask you, because to my understanding, that DHS did not contact the victim's family in terms of essentially, I guess, getting the green light to put Morgan Geyser in a group home near them. Is that standard, or is that something that's kind of different in this particular situation?
Well, the victim's family said that they did contact them when Anissa Wire was going through her conditional release. As to whether or not it is a standard protocol, I don't have an answer for that. I did reach out to DHS this afternoon to see if we could get some sort of comment and clarification from them. So, of course, when we do hear back, we'll share that. I don't know what is the standard protocol, Donovan, but you would think, and the judge certainly thought that because this case is such a high-profile case, one of the most sensational and traumatic cases really in Waukesha County history, that would have taken place. So it is a question as of right now as to why that didn't happen.
Brett, do we know? I know the judge gave them, both the defense and the time to draft a new plan. Do we know a timeline for that, when the new one's going to be released?
So it'll be 30 days from now. So on May 28th, that plan is due back in court. And then I believe it's June 9th is when Morgan Geyser will be back in court to do essentially what we were thinking was going to happen today, to learn what that release will entail. It is important to point out that even though that they were, under this current plan, going to be within 8 miles of each other, there is a current order that Morgan Geyser cannot have any contact with the victim in this case. She'd also be undergoing GPS monitoring in this particular incident. And her attorney says she was basically going to be under house arrest in this group home. So the likelihood of these two now women encountering each other is minimal at best. But as a precaution, they're going through this one more time.
Hey, Brett, did you get the sense that Morgan may be required to go to a new group home? And you may not know that because this is all playing out and it's got to still play out before court. But did you get a sense that that may be an option?
Well, I mean, I think that is the option, right? Because the state had objected to this particular location, and we don't know, what this exact address of this group home is. They're trying to keep that confidential. They were trying to keep even the county where she was going to be housed confidential. Obviously, that is not the case, at least as of this plan, which is now moot. But yeah, we're under the impression, right, that this is not going to be the location that she'll be at going forward. The prosecutor in this case said, look, we have the whole state of Wisconsin to choose from, and I don't know how many group homes there are in the state of Wisconsin that would be able to house Morgan Geyser. But he made the point, out of the whole state, why on earth did they pick this one particular group home that is just 8 miles away from the victim? So yeah, I think going forward, we're going to see some other plan where Morgan Geyser is going to be in a county, not in Waukesha County, but another county somewhere in the state.
Brett Lemoyne reporting for us for our Wisconsin Live Desk. Brett, thank you so much for staying on top of this story for us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Donovan.
All righty, we got to talk about this. The NFL draft had a very successful week, and a lot of folks we talked to said that they enjoyed Green Bay, but city leaders in Green Bay are very excited with regard to the outcome over the course of 3 days from Thursday through Saturday. Got to look at the stage now. Quite a contrast to what you probably saw if you went to the draft or what you saw on the news. Crews are now tearing down everything, and I feel like we had so much anticipation leading up to this, and we blinked, and the draft is no more. We do know that it was an incredible celebration. Let's break down some of the numbers in terms of how many fans came out to Green Bay and got that real taste of Titletown. We know about 600,000 people in total, according to the NFL, attended this 3-day event. We know Thursday brought in around 205 fans. Friday brought in around 175,000 people. But the third day, on Saturday, the draft's biggest day in Titletown, folks, was 220,000 people. So you're getting all kind of a behind-the-scenes look from our different cameras in Green Bay of the different areas that crews have to, go to and start taking down everything and kind of restore Titletown back to its normal, regularly scheduled programming. But this was such an incredible event. I went to the draft last year in Detroit, and I asked so many folks there who helped kind of transform Detroit for the draft, hey, what's your advice for Green Bay? The biggest things they said were to make sure people get a taste, a feel, make people feel welcomed to Green Bay who've never been there before. And it is safe to say, I think Green Bay lived up to those expectations. Based off of the number of people we spoke with, our crews on the ground reporting that, everybody that they spoke with and who were new to Green Bay specifically, really got that feel of what it means to be right outside of Lambeau in a title town. We know so many people's lives changed for the better when they were announced that they were going to be a part of the Packers tradition. We'll be playing in Lambeau. So it's a lot of things to celebrate. But again, 600,000 people attended the draft experience over the course of 3 days right there in Titletown. So a lot to continue celebrating and a lot to follow, especially we got to look out for some new players on the team and see how they can help bring us to victory with each game. So we'll continue following that as it develops. All right, folks, we are going to take a quick short break, but Live Desk, our Wisconsin Live Desk, will continue right after this. We'll see you in just a bit.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Donovan Long. Welcome back to our Wisconsin Live Desk, where we are following all kinds of news that's happening real time right here from our digital studios here. We are able, through the Wisconsin Live Desk, to disseminate information nationally, from our community, and globally. Right now, we want to talk about some stuff. We're just a bit of news we're getting in from the Racine County Sheriff's Office. If you bear with me, I'm just going to read my screen here because this is just rolling in. Deputies apparently attempted to stop a vehicle for a speeding violation. They say that when they tried to stop the driver, the driver of that car kept going. It looks like a deputy had to utilize stop sticks to get the driver to slow down and come to a halt. We're told that effort was successful. It doesn't appear that there were any injuries with regard to this traffic stop. We're not sure who was behind the wheel, if this is someone deputies were looking for, or if this is somebody that just happened to be disobeying the law. So we are going to continue following this as deputies in Racine continue investigating, but that's something that just came on our radar. We'll keep you posted on our broadcast and on our Fox Local mobile app as that investigation continues to unfold. Alrighty, time now for a check of the forecast. We have been talking about the weather. It's nice outside, the warmest day of the week, but we do know, according to our good friend Steph over here, that there are some potential showers we could be preparing for. Stephanie, good afternoon to you. What can we expect, my friend?
You know, we're still in a waiting pattern, I think, at this point. But one thing is for certain, those temperatures are climbing and dew points are climbing as well. Both, of course, something we need for thunderstorm development. But just take a look at some of the currents here real quick. 66 in Milwaukee, so a clear lake breeze as expected. We'll likely stay in the 70s today, but look at some inland areas already seeing low 70s from places like West Bend into Burlington, Kenosha nearing 80 already. You can already tell it's going to be a warm day today as we continue to deal with a strong south wind, and we're starting to see a little bit more moisture out there as well as dew points away from the lake climbing into the 50s. However, look at out towards the west. Look at those dew points nearing 60 in parts of Minnesota and seeing some dew points in the low 60s in parts of Iowa as well as the Quad Cities. So we will continue to see temperatures rising as well as dew points rising, especially in our inland areas, and we need that moisture again for thunderstorm development. Now this is relatively new. I'd say maybe in the last 20-30 minutes or so, a new tornado watch out towards the west. This is for Minnesota as well as northwestern Iowa, as well as one active severe thunderstorm warning. You see that small orange box. So thunderstorms are beginning to initiate along the warm front right now, or excuse me, the cold front right now out towards the west. You can see just this small little line there just south of the low pressure itself. Now notice out ahead of it, not seeing as much activity. So there is still a decent amount of uncertainty as to what we here locally will see, but there is the chance for scattered thunderstorms here through the afternoon, a line again out west along the cold front to reach us overnight tonight. So something we will just watch, of course, very closely as this continues to make its way eastward. Now, this is a ways away, so we really won't see the cold front until late tonight. Again, out ahead of it, we've got a few different cells just east of La Crosse and northeast as well. Nothing strong, nothing severe. We did see north of Milwaukee a couple hours ago a few pop-up thunderstorms too across Fond du Lac as well as Sheboygan County and into the West Bend area. So we could still see a little bit more of that going forward today. However, now that I think we've got the warm front, we've got some of those warmer temperatures and slightly higher dew points, we do start to need or will need to start watching that potential for some stronger thunderstorms. But thankfully at the moment, so far so good. Here's the timeline here. And again, this is all still a big if, and I'll explain why in just a second. But I do think through the afternoon, especially starting late afternoon through tonight, we'll have the chance for some of these more isolated or scattered thunderstorms like we saw in some spots earlier this morning. Now that cold front, it may not move through our area until closer to midnight, if not even just after. So timing with that frontal boundary for stronger storms, not necessarily on our side. Normally as we get through some of those overnight hours, a lot of thunderstorms start to lose their strength. Still not going to rule out severe weather with that line though. Just know that the timing might actually help us out a little bit. And once again, this is still a conditional severe threat. It will all depend on if those storms develop. And one thing we're watching right now, in fact, out towards the west, kind of seeing it in parts of Iowa, eastern Iowa that is, something called a capping inversion. Now, if you were watching Wisconsin weather experts, meteorologist Tom Walks had a fantastic explanation as to what this is. It's a layer of warm air aloft. And, the easiest way to describe this, because we do see it every so often during our spring and summer months, it is something that really prevents thunderstorms from developing in its simplest terms here. Analogy that we use is it's putting a lid on top of boiling water and causes it to, not boil or not happen when it comes to thunderstorm activity. So something that we will really need to watch here locally, as that may really prevent some more thunderstorm development in our area. We've been talking about it pretty much all morning long. So still kind of in that wait and see pattern across southeast Wisconsin. But to say the very least, our atmosphere is primed for severe weather. So if we do end up seeing thunderstorms developing anytime from here on out, they, number one, could have all severe threats, and all of them could be severe. So even though you're going to be out and about enjoying some of this warm air, make sure you have a way to receive alerts if there were to be any watches or warnings developing. Some of these storms could develop pretty quickly this afternoon, some of those pop-ups. So something to definitely be aware of if you are going to be out and about throughout the remainder of the day today. But again, these are decent threats here. Strong wind, hail, even an isolated tornado. Now out west, there's an even greater threat for tornadoes and potentially even strong tornadoes. We're talking over EF2 strength, and that's more so in this red bubble here, western Wisconsin into Minnesota, as well as northern Iowa. A very turbulent afternoon ahead, especially in areas west of us.
Hey, Stephanie, it's Kale in the booth. I have a question for you. It
Yes,
might be
please.
a little bit too technical, but in terms of the cap, what sort of things do you start to see when the cap starts to break? Is there any sort of like signifiers that show that that's starting to happen?
Sure. Well, I mean, simply put, thunderstorms just start to develop. Sometimes we can see those clouds clearing out a little bit. Temperatures pretty much are already warm, even with a cap. But sometimes we can also see those temperatures rising enough to break, we call it convective, I'm trying to think of the term here. Temperatures climb enough to kind of break through a little bit, and the heat itself is enough for some of these thunderstorms to develop, if that makes sense. A lot of times the cap will erode late in the day, which is why we're really looking at thunderstorm potential more so later this afternoon into early evening. So it's also kind of a time frame type of deal here. You think of your peak summer months, and we'll say, we have a cap throughout the afternoon, but then it erodes a little bit later on in the evening, and then we start to see those thunderstorms popping really quickly. Hopefully that made sense a little bit, but it is really, as we already talked about, kind of just a wait and see. But in our favor is that a lot of this, especially later tonight, is going to develop west of us. So if we start to see that indication here soon in Iowa that these storms are finally firing, that is going to tell us that those storms are going to move eastward and potentially impact us here at eastern Wisconsin.
So basically you don't know until you know. Once storms start firing, well, the cap's breaking.
Right, exactly. It's really hard to prepare for, which is a lot of times when we have these pop-up thunderstorms, sometimes they do take you by surprise. So it's just best going into the afternoon. Don't cancel any of your outdoor plans, but best to make sure you have that Storm Center app. So if something were to develop really quickly, a watch or warning is put out, you would get that alert, and that's your indicator to get inside and know that severe weather's coming.
Wonderful. Steph, thank you so much. I got to ask you too, because we're getting ready to pivot to another story, but it concerns the weather. So deep thought. Crews have been trying to remove this since last week when the anonymous donor said that they would fund the removal. Crews need the weather to hold up so that they can do their job efficiently and safely. So in the event that they're looking at this week to possibly remove the boat from Lake Michigan, are we looking good in the subsequent days, or not really?
The biggest factor for them, Donovan, is going to be the wind, because when we have the strong wind, especially off of the lake, that creates those really choppy waves, which is what we saw last week. Now, simply put, it's pretty much always windy near the lake, so that alone is going to be pretty tricky. Today, tomorrow, going to be pretty windy. Then we have a couple of rain chances later on in the week. So I don't honestly know if they're going to be able to get that done this week. Maybe early Wednesday morning or on Friday. We'll have to see. But as you can see, what was this, last week, and how choppy those waves were with some of the strong wind? So we'll have to see, Donovan.
Yeah, no kidding. I punched up the image of the boat. We're looking at it right now at the live desk. And to your point, yeah, the waves are pretty choppy. And as you mentioned, and as we've reported even last week, the waves were still choppy as well back then at that part of the week last week, and that really prohibited crews from removing this boat out of the water. So we'll kind of have to watch how this plays out, Steph.
You know what I'm noticing, Donovan, though? Usually a boat's in the water with this amount of waves, it's rocking. Right. This thing's not moving.
This one's planted.
That's buried in the sand right there.
This one is definitely stuck in the sand. And as y'all mentioned, so many people have talked about this being an eyesore, while others have just jogged by and looked at it and said, hey, this is something that's really cool. I love to see this. Others not so much, as I mentioned. Now, we will tell you, Mayor Cavalier Johnson discussed funding again for its removal last week, Wednesday, because there was such a issue with who's responsible for moving this bad boy out of the sand that's causing so much community conversation. And as look, take this for yourself. And with regard to community conversation, you're looking at it happening in real time. People are coming out, getting on the rocks to see the boat that's still there that has not been removed yet. But for some background, this boat that has been now called Deep Thought has been in this spot since October of 2024, last October. And since then, it wasn't graffitied at the moment, but so many people are coming out to just kind of I guess, display their work of art, how they see fit on the boat, and you get what you see here. But this has been such a thing for this community, so much so that there was like this candlelight vigil. It was really tongue-in-cheek that some supporters held last week when when it was announced that, city leaders will, have somebody finally remove this from the sands of Lake Michigan. So, I mean, listen, it's been such a part of this community just for a little over a year now. And you got to imagine when crews officially remove it from the sands of Lake Michigan, there might be another candlelight vigil, dare I say. Definitely some talk and conversation about missing the boat, because it's been such a pillar, if you will, in this community. Alrighty, folks, we are going to take a quick short break for a second, but when we come back, we'll kind of unpack what we've gathered and what we've learned since we've been on air for the past 50-ish or so minutes. We'll be right back. Take care.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Donovan Long. Thank you for sticking with us for the past hour or so. We've been kind of unpacking what's happening around our community, around the nation, and what's happening around the world. And we've got to check out the forecast that we've listened to from one of our meteorologists, Stephanie Barrichello. But we want to focus right now, real quickly, give you a live view of what's happening in Green Bay right now. We know folks there are pretty much tearing down everything that they've built because the draft is over. We can tell you that it was a success. So many people in Titletown are ranting and raving about the glowing review that the NFL has given them. We know the league said that about 600,000 guests went to Titletown over the 3-day event. And apparently day 3, which was Saturday, was the popular choice for families looking to experience the 2025 NFL Draft. We know that on Thursday, opening day, day 1, brought in around 205,000 people. The next day, Friday, brought in around 175,000 people. And that third day, yeah, baby, 220,000 people, which was the drafts in Green Bay, the biggest day. Saturday was the big day, of course, for families to get the draft experience, to hang out in the draft footprint. And this was really something that wasn't just for football lovers, right? You could be someone who knows nothing about the league, nothing about the teams, but this was something where you could just get the taste and feel and get immersed in the Green Bay atmosphere. And all of that was reflected over the course of 3 days right there in Titletown. So crews right now are continuing to tear down what they built as they move on ahead to plan for the draft next year. So we want to thank you so much for joining us right here on our Wisconsin Live Desk.
Tell me exactly what I'm paying and why I'm paying for it.
It's within $1 of being half of my old bill.
With Verizon, I was paying about $150 a month. With Consumer Cellular, I'm paying about half that.
Okay, this is doable. This is affordable.
I'm getting the exact same coverage for half the price. That's a beautiful thing.
Done deal.
I got to keep my phone. I got to keep my number.
Switching over took about 20 minutes. That's it.
It's month to month, very simple.
It's been amazing. I was now a Consumer Cellular customer.
And I've been bragging to my friends about it too.
Call 800-706-7278 to switch and save up to half with Consumer Cellular. Plus, for a limited time, new customers get their second month free.
Welcome back, everybody. Here's a look right here in Wisconsin. Temperature's about 58 degrees, rising up through the 60s later on today as a cold front's going off to your west and a warm front's already lifted through. You're going to be clearly in that warm sector later today, and that means you're going to see that risk of severe weather go up, and that's going to be big time by later this afternoon. But we've already got our first tornado watch that just got posted about an hour ago, a little bit less than an hour ago. You can see west of St. Cloud. Right around there, so western parts of Minnesota into northwestern Iowa. In fact, we've already had one severe thunderstorm warning out of that thing. It started